that you had covered with ash, right? So since you had covered with ash, so it doesn't look like so here it's not looking like you're cooking. Right? I'm just trying to get this thing on over here. Oh, it's on already. Already the YouTube caught already. Okay, so let's take a look at the Gemara. We are on 38b. 38b 1. So the Gemara said we had yesterday a discussion that if you took the food on the Shabbat off the stove that you had placed the ashes on, right, to diminish the fire, diminish the cover, right, or you had removed the coals, we had the Gemara that says, Beis Hillel says you can return it, right? The Mishnah says if you take it off, you can return it. Then we had the whole Gemara that has a whole discussion about what the conditions are to return it. Do you still have to have it in your hand, right? So the first opinion says you have to have it in your hand. If you put it on the ground, it's no good. Once you put it on the ground, then you can't go ahead and return it. And then we had the next opinion that says, no, even if you place it on the ground, you could go ahead and return it. It's still it's not considered over. Okay, and then right, okay, so then we said so one opinion says if you put it on the ground, it's no good. Second opinion says no, if you put it around, it is good. And then the Gemara said, then the Gemara explains the opinion that says that when it's in your hand, which seems like the opinion says you have to have it in your hand. Then the Gemara says one opinion says if it's in your hand, if it's in your hand, it's good. If it's on the ground, it's no good. And one opinion says even if you put it on the ground, it's good, right? So we established an argument whether you have to have it in your hand the whole time, could you put it down and then put it back? And then the Gemara said, even the opinion that says you have to have it in your hand also has to have a hand is not enough. You have to also have a mind to put it back. Oh, yes. Hand you need hand only won't be good enough. Oh, nobody says hand only. No, this opinion says. Oh, this opinion says hand only is not enough. You need hand and intent to put back. Now, and then the Gemara says there's another opinion that says that implies if it's in your hand, even if you don't have a mind to put it back, it's good. As long as it's in your hand. So that was the last. And let's take a look at that last point. We'll go back to that point. Amma Cheskia 38b1. Amma Cheskia Mishmei de Abaye. Cheskia says in the name of Abaye. Ha de Amrit. You have it? And 38b1 on the right side, middle of the page. Amma Cheskia. Mishmei de Abaye. Ha de Amrit. Odem Yodem Muta. That which we said if it's in your hand is permitted. Lo Amrit. If you want to send to the group that we're on, Adam. Lo Maran Ela Shadaita Lahausia. That which you have them, it's in your hand. It is good. That's only because you had a mind to put it back. But if you don't have a mind to put it back, and you didn't have the kavanah as you called it. Good morning, Simon. Welcome back. We missed you. You should know we're talking about coming back, bringing the food back. We got Simon back. Yeah, So, Simon, we're talking about Shabbat, the issue of now on Shabbat itself. If you take the pot of food off the fire that was covered with ash, because if you take a food off an open fire, you can never return it on the Shabbat itself, even if the food is fully cooked. But if the food was off a fire that was covered with ash, which you already showed you're not interested in the cooking further, even that, there are conditions that if you take off the food from the fire, let's say you took off the soup, you want to return the soup. So what are the conditions that need to be met? It's still in your hand. It still has to be boiling. We'll see an opinion that says it still has to be boiling hot, right? We'll see about that. The Gemara didn't discuss that yet. But it's in your hand. It is, so we're on 38 Simon B1 on the right side. The middle of the paragraph, middle of the page, begins 38B1 on the right side, middle paragraph. So he says, Lo amarat ella hadam, if it's in your hand, mutter, it's permitted. Lo amaran, we did not say that. Ella shadaitel house, you had a point to put it back. If you don't have intent to put it back, then asur, it is forbidden. Right? So you, like you said, Adam, we need both in your hand, and also you need to have intent to put it back. Michlal, the implication is that if it would be on the ground, meaning if you're explaining the opinion has to be in your hand, that means the opinion in your hand says ground is no good, right? So if it was on the ground, the gabe karka, and you're saying meaning there's a contrast in your hand it's good, on the ground it's no good. And when is it good in your hand? Only when you have a mind to put back. What's the implication? If you put it on the ground, even if you had a mind to put back, it's no good. Can we get that clear again? I want to say it again. If I say there's a distinction between hand and ground, hand, if it has to be in your hand, it's good. If it's on the ground, no good. If you place it on the ground, it's no good. And then you clarify, what do I mean when it's in your hand, it is good? The hand that is good is only when you have what? Intent to put it back. What's the implication? But that's the contrast to the ground. Whatever the case is, the hand is good. You're telling me the ground is no good. You're contrasting hand to the ground. But if it's on the ground, it's no good. I mean, even if the ground had the kavanah, when you placed it on the ground, you had a mind to put it back. But since it's not in your hand, so in the hand has to be on with the intent to put it back. On the ground, and you tell me, and in that case, the ground will not be good.
There's no opinion that says ground is okay.
I mean, at this point, so far, exactly. So far, it would seem at this point. Again, 1 second. Let's clarify, Adam. We did warning us. We did brought opinion before that on the ground is good. We brought opinion on the ground is good. We have two opinions. If you took the food off on Shabbat, one opinion says it has to be in your hand, one opinion says that even it doesn't have to be in your hand. So we had recorded an opinion that says on the ground is good. Then we had a dissenting opinion. Said no, on the ground. If you take off the food on the Shabbat and you put it on the ground, it's no good. Two opinions.
If the opinion that said the ground was good, that was assuming ground with cover.
That's a great question.
Or not.
Great question. Didn't specify, and we have to think about that. And we'll have to see if the Gemara is going to address that. But now the Gemara is saying, in the opinion that says that it has to be in your hand and intent to put back, that opinion would hold ground. It doesn't make a difference what your intent is. Okay. Right? The opinion that says it has to be in your hand and kavanah holds ground is no good. That is established. Now, then the Gemara says, Ika di Amri, others say, the bottom of 38b1, that opinion that says al gabe karkas asur, that if you place it on the ground, right, you took it off Simon on Shabbat, and it was covered, the kira. It's not that it's an open fire, but then you want to put it back, you took it off. The opinion that says in the ground is no good, lo amaran, here it goes, here it is. You hear Adam, ela she'ein daitel hasa. I mean, now we're saying that the opinion that says if you put it on the ground is no good, that's only if you didn't have intent to put it back. If you had a mind to put it back, mutter, it is permitted to put it back, even if you placed it on the ground. Now, Michlal, now if you say this, now let's now look at the inference this way. If you say that the contrast between your hand and the ground is the ground is no good only when you didn't have intent to put it back. What does it imply? But the hand is good. What does it imply? The hand is good even without kavanah.
So it implies there's two options. You can do hand with no kavanah or ground with kavanah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because it's still what's the idea? Because the idea is if you have ground with intent, that means it's like it's continuous of the act that you did before Shabbat. It's not like the game, the chess, the step is over. Right? What's the issue? The issue is when it's over, when you do an action, and now it's like stop. Now now when you put it back on, it's like a new action. You can't put food on that stove on the Shabbat, even though the stove was covered with ash. You can't go ahead and put a food that was but as long as it's continuing, you placed it before Shabbat, you're good. As long as that placement before Shabbat is still didn't stop.
Because if you have the hand, even if you don't have the kavanah, you kind of do have the kavanah because it's like
Never really ended.
yeah.
But yeah, I didn't have much to put it back, but it's still not really. It's still not really.
Been taken off.
Right. Exactly. This is a discussion. How do you look at something when you're having kavanah one way, but your act is it's in your hand? How do you look at it? So the Gemara Michlal and applies according to this. Even if it's in your hand, even appreciating that even if you don't have a mind to put it back, it's permitted. So now, then the Gemara says an interesting case. Boy, Rabbi Yirmiyah. Rabbi Yirmiyah asked the following question. Meaning you told me that if the allowance of returning, remember again, we started to say what's that explanation? But as long as it's not called that you really remove the first act that was done before Shabbat, because if you're holding it in your hand, what is clear from the Gemara? If you take it off and you have a mind to put it back and you didn't put it down, everybody agrees you're good. Right? If it's now, we have to see what's the level of the heat of the pot. The Gemara not explain what's the level of the heat of the pot, right? But if you took off, so what do we envision? The thing is still hot. The coals are covered a certain amount with ash, or you remove the coals to the side of the oven. You're taking off the pot. You're taking off some food, and you're putting it back. Or right, you take it, and if you did not put it down, or if you not put it on the ground, it's still in your hand, and you had intent to put it back, you're good. That is good, right? That's what we established. And let's say we'll look at the intensity of the fire soon. And the Gemara says, so now, according to the opinion that says you can't put it on the ground, what's the law if it's in between the ground and your hand? What does that mean? You didn't put it on the ground. You put it on a chair, on a bed. Well, boy, Rabbi Yirmiyah, you have it 38B. We're now with 38B2. 38B2. Simon with 38B2. Now, boy, Rabbi Yirmiyah. I placed the pot on a peg. They had a peg, a stick, standing in the ground, or let's say similar to this stender, had like a little something, and I put it on top of here. It's not on the ground. The Gemara's case is said it's like a peg, a stick coming from the ground, it's like a stand. You call it a stand. Is that what it's called? And you put the pot on the stand, but it's not on the ground, but it's on the stand or on the table. Or the Gemara case was I put it on a bed. Is that like I put it really down? Meaning the ground seems to be a place where maybe you store things, you're finished with something, you put it on the ground. But when you put it on a place that you don't, a bed is clearly not something you're going to leave there, right? We don't leave pots on beds, right? And maybe I wonder if this type of peg, it's like something like a more of an interim type of thing that you place it down, you know. So what would be the status of such a? Well, how do we look at it? Meaning, perhaps if you put it on the ground, that's like it's over. I'm not. It's like it's not planned. It's not going back onto the fire, and therefore, if I would go down, pick it up after I put it on the ground, I put it on the fire that was covered. It looks like a new act. I'm starting from the beginning. Looks like I'm doing an act on Shabbat that has some resemblance of cooking. But when I put it on these type of things, that these are temporary. See, that's a temporary stations.
What is the bed?
The bed. It's only like I'm putting it. I'm putting on the bed just because maybe it's convenient for me to.
I feel like we're missing a lot. Very
Yeah,
understand what they're talking
right, but I think if we understand, I think for our purpose, we have to understand this is a temporary type of
about. Yeah,
interim place.
that's what hasn't changed. You
Right.
put something somewhere
This
or whatever.
right, but the question is, what is this place that I place the food?
And what makes it different than the ground?
Right. So I'm saying to you, the difference between the ground is that when you put something on the ground, that was a type of place, that was a storage type of place. You leave things on the ground
Oh, for extended
for
periods.
extended period
So
of
the
time.
bed is like the tower to us.
Right. But our counters are maybe a little different. Morning in the bed. Morning, Ezra. Good to see you. But our counters are different because our counters might be where we keep things permanently. When we take off a pot, we put it on a counter. We have our counter space is depending on the size of your counter, right? But that's how context would play a great role. If you have a 2x1 counter, you have no room on a counter, and you wouldn't leave a pot in any way permanently on a counter. Like I would say, our tables. We don't leave pots on a table, right? If you put a pot on a table, Simon, right, that would be a temporary type of thing. I put it down on the table for a minute. I'm going to take something and I put it back. I'm not going to leave it there. You know what I'm saying? It might depend on the size of the counters. People live with big counters. They leave pots from the Shabbat morning or whatever. They leave on the counter. But here we're talking clearly about a temporary type of place. This is a temporary type of place. Um, and that is the question over here. Is it considered still over because it's not in my hands, and therefore I would put it back? It looks like like I'm doing it for the first time. Well, no, since it's still I only place it temporary there. It's like it's still by me. It's still in my hand in a certain sense. Even though I put it down, it's just like it's like a rest. You're traveling somewhere and you go to the back and you go to for a rest stop. You're still traveling. It's just you happen to have to stop for the rest stop. Not that my trip is over, right? So now, they bring down over here regarding the table and the counter that a person has in the kitchen. They bring down that it would seem that if you're holding it, if you're still holding on to the pot when you put it down, I'm still holding it, but it happens to be resting on the table. I took the pot and I put it, but I'm holding with one hand on the table with the pot. That's not called putting down on the table. That's not called putting down on the chair or on the bed. Unless if I'm still holding it. Even if I put it on the bed. In contrast, they want to even say that even if you put it on the ground, maybe holding on to it wouldn't be good enough. Okay, but now, so that's the question of the Gemara. What do we say by this middle case? If you hold putting on the ground is no good, but you didn't put it on the ground, you have to, because the Gemara said the two ends. It has to be in your hand, it's good, On the ground is no good. What's that in the middle? It's on a bed or the peg, that stand, that temporary plate, which you won't leave it there. It's only temporarily. What would the peg or on the bed? What would the status be of such a pot? Hear what we're saying? Talking about Shabbat, you had the pot. It was on the fire that was covered, not an open fire, covered with some ash. And you took it off on Shabbat. Now you want to put it back. So we spoke about the conditions that are required. There's opinion that says you have to have it in your hand. Once you put it down, you can't put it back. And now we're going to that opinion. It has to be in your hand. But if it's on the ground, it's no good. What if it's not in your hand, but it's not on the ground? It's not here and it's not there. It's in the middle. What is the status with such a thing? That's our question. Good, fascinating, beauty. See the details. How the Gemara, Adam. You see, we have to get down to the details of the bottom. Boy, Rav Ashi asked the following question. Pina, we're now on 38b2. Pina 38b on the right top of the page. Boy Rav Ashi on the right column. It's about 4 lines from the top. Another inquiry, right? Boy Rav Ashi. Pina me mecham lemecham. If you took the hot water from the kettle that was on top of the stove, and you put it into another hot kettle, put it to another. What can you return that liquid? Right? You went ahead. What's the case? You put it from one kettle to another kettle, and can I return the second kettle that I poured it into? See, could he return the water that's now in this new kettle to the stove that had covered with ash? Now it's Shabbat, right? He did this on Shabbat. Took water from this tea kettle, boiling hot water, put in the other tea kettle, and still boiling hot. It was fully cooked, but can I go ahead and put it back on to this to the kira, or does it have does it look like a problem of cooking? Good morning, Nathan and Mazel Tov Mabruk. Good to see you on. So pina lemecham. So here's the case. I took the water, the cooked water, fully cooked water, and I did not put it down on the ground, the pot on the ground. I poured it into another tea kettle, and then I want to put the second tea kettle on back. Do we look at it like it's like a new? This is like in the same way I can't take a liquid and in a pot. Good morning, Nathan. Welcome, Mazel Tov, Mabruk. Now, if it's not on there. Uh-huh. So if I went ahead and I poured this water, right, and let's say the water is still fully hot, and that the question is, do we say good morning? If I went ahead and the water was fully hot and I picked it up and I put it back, that's no problem, right? I didn't put it down. Right? So it wouldn't be a problem. I could go ahead and put it right back onto that top of the stove that's covered, that the ash is covered. But now it's not the actual pot itself. I took the contents of pot number one, good morning, I poured into a different tea kettle. Now I put the second tea kettle. Is that like it's a total new thing? Ralph is getting on there. I like that. Good morning, Ralph. I'm sorry you had trouble getting on. So that is the Gemara's question. Is it like a new thing? And if I wouldn't be able to do it? Or do we look at it that it's not like a new thing? Morning, Ralph. We're sorry you're having trouble getting on, Ralph.
Yeah, I don't know why.
But always reach out to Adam, could always help you. I'm sorry that, okay.
Where are we today?
We're on 38b2. So that 38b2, right by the Mishnah, and the Gemara says teku. The Gemara says the Gemara does not give an answer to this question, meaning one side of the coin is pouring the water from one tea kettle to another tea kettle and then putting it back on the stove is like a total new act. And the same way, I can't take a I wouldn't be able if something if the pot if the same way a pot that was put down on the ground, let's say, I wouldn't be able to put it onto the stove for the first. I can't put it onto this, even though it was on the stove before. But once I put it down on the ground, it's like it's over. It's like a new thing when I put it back on. It looks like cooking. So maybe if the food is now coming from the liquid is now coming from a different tea kettle, not in the original. I mean, if it would just stayed in the original and I just moved the original tea kettle, I picked it up and then I poured out some water and then I put it right back on, and it was fully cooked. It's no problem. But I poured it from this tea kettle to another tea kettle. And now I'm putting the second tea kettle onto this place. Maybe it looks like a new thing is happening over here. Or maybe it might have an appearance of cooking. Maybe I can't do that. Or no, it's the same water from before. I never put it down on the floor. I just poured it into another tea kettle. That is the question of the Gemara. Now, here in Halacha, the Rishonim, the question is, let's go back to our question. Morning. Our question is, I had a pot. Right? Good morning, Gary. Good to see you. I had a pot. And let's say I had a pot, and let's say it was a pot of soup, right? And I went ahead and it was on top of this blech, right? The pot of soup was on top of this blech, or the pot of soup was on top of this hot plate, right? So I think the Sephardi custom is that if they're dealing with liquid, they will not take liquid on the Shabbat out from the refrigerator. They will not take a soup and put it on Shabbat on top of the blech or on top of the hot plate. They would only take dry salads on Shabbat. And that seems to be what I understand the custom of the Sfaradim are. Ashkenazim, many of them will not even take dry salads on Shabbat, cold from the refrigerator and put onto the blech. But let's go with the Sephardi custom that they'll take a fully cooked dry food and they'll put on a blech. They'll put it on the blech or on the hot plate on the Shabbat itself. Is that correct? It seems to be the custom by the community. But let's say we're talking about a soup. A soup, you're not going to do that, right? Because what's the issue? Because soup, we are more strict. We say by a liquid that even though it's fully cooked, we are concerned for the opinion that says it could be a second, you could recook something. Let me clarify that. I mean, it's not that you're allowed to. That the problem is that it has we can consider that like a new cooking. By a liquid, the enhancement that happens by cooking it a second time, we will be restricted by it. Therefore, they will not allow you to take a liquid that's cold on the Shabbat. Let's say you had a water that was boiled up before Shabbat, and let's say you went ahead and you put it on the counter Friday night. You took it off Friday night. Now you put it on the counter, and now you want to know, can I put back that water that was already cooked? It was already cooked before Shabbat. It was already boiled before Shabbat. You can't put it back on top of the hot plate. You can't put it back on top of the blech. Why? Because that liquid, we're gonna consider it, even that maybe by reheating it up, it's like you cook. It will be counted as you did an act of cooking. In contrast to a piece of chicken that was fully cooked before Shabbat, if you want to go ahead and put it on the blech or put it on the hot plate, that you could do. Right? We got clear? Remember, on open fire, we never could put something on Shabbat. Something that's not fully cooked, you can't put on Shabbat. It's not fully cooked, right? Not fully cooked, then I don't care what anything looks like. I don't care what kind of type of heating you're going to put it on. It's going to be whether it's a hot plate or it's a blech. If it's going to cook, has the ability to cook, it's a problem. You're cooking something that's not fully cooked. But when something is fully cooked, that's like we spoke earlier. The best thing is make sure all your foods and liquids are fully cooked and fully boiled before Shabbat. Not that Shabbat come in and now you have some things on the fire, on the blech, on the hot plate that wasn't fully cooked. But then you get into more issues. And you have to be much more learned about, and hopefully we've learned a lot what you could do if you're in that situation. But the ideal situation is that things should be fully cooked and everything fully cooked before Shabbat. We did say that the Sfardim, they'll have a leniency, and maybe they'll have food on a hot plate, right? That was not fully cooked, right? It might be 50% cooked, even not. But let's say they'll put that on the hot plate before Shabbat, and they might leave it there. Again, that's not the recommended way to go, right? Recommended way to go. Let it be fully cooked before Shabbat. And what you're only doing is when Shabbat enters, it's only being warmed. It's only staying warm. You're not involved, right, Gary? You're not. That's the best way to go. You avoid a lot of questions. But now the Gemara discussed. But when you actually, when the Shabbat came and you actually took something off, and now you want to put it back. Let's say I took the soup off and I want to put it back. What are the conditions that need to be met in order for me to put that soup back? One opinion says you have to be holding on to that spot. If you put it down on the ground, you can't put it back. Other opinion says no, even if you put it on the ground, it's fine. Other opinion says you have to have it in your hand. Not only has to be in your hand, you also have to have intent to put it back. Not if I put it in my hand, when I'm not putting it back, then I change my mind. If I took it off, I had the intention of putting it down, then I changed my mind in the middle, then I want to put it back. Not good enough. I have to have in mind when I took it off to put it back. But now the question is, who does the law follow? Do we follow the more lenient opinion, or the more strict opinion? And then we even had that if you had it, some say on the ground, it's only no good when you put it on the morning. Good to see you. When you put it on the ground, it's only no good when you had not in mind to put it back. If you had in mind to put it back and you put it on the ground, it also would be good. And then we had the middle question. You didn't put it on the ground, but it's not in your hand. You put it on a chair. You put it on a peg. You put it on a like a table. Should be a similar case. How do you look at that? So in the halacha, the Rishonim have some are lenient. They say you go since it's a rabbinic law, right? A rabbinic law. So sometimes when you have two opinions in a rabbinic law, you could go with the more lenient opinion, right? When you're not sure what to do, meaning when the rabbis say something, you got to follow what the rabbis say. The rabbis say you can't move certain things on Shabbat. It's mukseh. You can't move it on Shabbat. But here, when the rabbis themselves are arguing whether we have a rabbinic fence here, we don't have a rabbinic fence, so some of them are lenient. And others say that we are more strict, even though it's a rabbinic law. But being that this rabbinic money is protecting from a biblical prohibition, because if it looks like cooking, then maybe you're might actually go ahead and cook. So therefore, we have to be more strict. So we'll see tomorrow more the halachic application. Have a great day, everybody. Right, because liquid, it seems that when liquid cools down, good morning, it's much more of a improvement that you're making to the liquid. Take a hot water, and you boiled water. Once you boiled, but once it's no more boiled, you lost a lot. You lost a lot of the benefit of the cooking, right?
Yes, I understand, but if you put it back on, does it boil? You're really pleased.
Put it back on it.